How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Senseonics. We ended up getting the FDA approval, but we had a strong sell off inside of the market. I'm going to be talking about it inside of this video. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is a technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to be going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for Senseonics. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing at $2.42, being down 33.70%. On the low, it tested $2.41, and then on the high, testing $3.27. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 106.373 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 23.805 million shares. So we did have well above the average in regards to volume, but we dealt with a good amount of selling pressure. When we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, we can see from the RSI down below, it was at 40.57. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 100-day, the 200-day, the 21-day EMA, and as well as the 50-day. So you can see we experienced a strong sell-off that happened in the pre-market, and then as far as going into the open and closing at 242, which is an area of support that we've shown to have in the past as well. But one thing that I want to bring to your attention, as far as how far this pullback could go, don't be shocked if we start getting down to this 210 level, which we visited recently back in the end of January. And this is where I'd want to see if Senseonics would go down to $2, which you've seen to be an area of support. And this is where I would start saying, hey, let's see if the price can find a base. And that's when I'd probably look towards actually going back in with a position. But aside from all of that, as far as how the chart is looking, it is very bearish. And if we continue to have weak market conditions, again, we already got that news in regards to the CPI, then that's why I'm saying this pullback can continue even further. As far as for the high that we saw in the day, again, this was literally right at the open because it sold off. To get back to $3, it's going to take a lot of buying volume, and I'm not seeing this in the near future. I just want to make sure I'm being completely honest with you guys. So what I would do if you're thinking to get back in as far as for a long-term investment, I would just wait this thing out, wait for the price to find a base and to discover itself and so on. But for the most part, you can see chart is very bearish. I wouldn't just jump in and buy anything because you could be in the middle of a falling knife. So now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Senseonics. Scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at our recent filings for February 11th, we have Meter Asset Management Inc. that purchased 15 shares. Really, they got to report that. And we have a closed position from Seacrest Wealth Management LLC. We also have an Exodus Point Capital Management that purchased 61,820 shares. You can see we have some closed positions from 3 institutions. We also see SJS Investment Consulting that purchased 15,000 shares. We have a closed position here, and then we also have Elaine's Asset Management that purchased 26,543 shares, and then we have the Royal Fund Management LLC that purchased 10,000 shares. We also have Bank of Montreal that purchased 558,783 shares, and then we have Dark Forest Source Capital Management that purchased 14,081 shares. And also for February the 10th, which I know we covered already, Core Cap Advisors LLC purchasing 2,750 shares. So now when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 44.76%, and then for the dark pool short volume, it is just over 26.88 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 550,000, updated 1 hour ago, and then for the short ball fee rate, it is at 12.08%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see for the close of the 10th, it was at 27.85, and then for the close of the 11th being at 44.76. So we can clearly see that Senseonics does have short squeeze potential. So now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Senseonics. So we see here on the inflow, it's at 47.01, and then on the outflow, it's at 51.04. Taking a look at the breakdown, on the large, it was 0.22. On the medium, it was 31.37, and then on the small, it was 15.42. When we take a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large, it was 0.88. On the medium, it was 36.76, and then on the small, it was 13.40. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see that big outflow on February 11th being at negative 666.4. Analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tend to represent the retail side, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 23.85%. So this is very high for SENS. Keep in mind, when we were covering it on earlier days throughout this week, or even before the FDA approval was announced, it ranged around 3 to 5%. So seeing the turnover ratio this high shows there was a good amount of selling pressure on the day. There was also a lot of traders and so forth. But again, not surprised considering that we did have above average volume, and we know with everything that came out, it was just mostly selling volume. So now let's go into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for Senseonics, before we go into it, let me just kind of explain what happened the morning when I found out about the news. I just came home from dropping my daughter off at daycare, and I was going to my computer to get things ready for the Discord so we know what we're going to be trading for the day. And then I got a message in the Discord saying, Dre, have you taken a look at Senseonics? We got the FDA approval. I was all super excited and so on. And then he's like, I think you need to take a look at the stock. And then when I took a look at the stock, I'm like, whoa, this stock was plummeting. And then when I opened up my brokerage account, I was pissed. And the reason why I was pissed, because I had a stop loss around $3. My average cost was around $2.73 at 1,000 shares. Yes, I didn't lose any money. I made a little bit, but if my whole intention was to make more money, I would have sold it days ago, or even to trim my position, scale out a little bit of profits. But I was like, you know what? With the FDA approval, we should be going to $4 plus. Yes, we did end up getting that approval, but I was like, man, now I got to think about where I'm going to be going in with my next entry. You guys know how I roll. I do not like being in the middle of a falling knife. So I'm going to wait for this stock to actually find some support. And once that base is being built, that's when I'm going to go back in with a position. But yes, I was just so pissed when I heard about what happened and when I saw that big red candle on the stock. But aside from all of that, what is the cause, right? We got the FDA approval. Why would the stock plummet? They ended up releasing preliminary results for earnings. Of course, these were not the official numbers. They were unaudited, but it was underwhelming to say the least. And the fact that they did this on the same day as the approval, this is what ended up having a dramatic impact on the stock. And of course, many traders were saying, I'm out of this play. So everyone just started selling, and then it just started continuing. And then we had weak market conditions on top of that. And then that's why we had the stock trading at the $2.40 range. Will it pick back up? Yes, I can see it picking back up. But if you were in a position and you're still holding, I would wait before you add more. See if it actually pulls back even further, because we know they are working on another device, which is a 365-day device. Yes, it might be another year or two before that gets an FDA approval. So that is definitely a catalyst you're going to want to keep your eye on. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, it does continue to have short squeeze potential. We also did see there were institutions that purchased up shares as well, so I'm pretty sure they were impacted by this massive drop. So one of the things I want you guys to look out for is upcoming earnings. Yes, they did give us some preliminary information, but the official earnings itself. I am not going to be buying any shares leading up to earnings. That is just my personal opinion. I do not give you guys financial advice, but I feel like it would be a lot safer just to wait, especially since they came out and announced it on the same day as the FDA approval. You got to ask yourself, how do they feel about shareholders? What did they think they were going to achieve? So my overall thoughts on the situation and why the company actually did this, I'm thinking they didn't want the FDA approval to go through. The stock skyrocketed to, let's say, $5-6, and then they put out weak earnings and then they had a massive pullback. They just feel like that wouldn't have been a good look. So they said, you know what, we got the FDA approval. Let's announce our preliminary results and then see where the stock goes. And from a corporate perspective, it does make a lot of sense because at least with earnings, we won't be seeing a big drop because it's already happened. So let's see how Senseonics performs for this coming week. I hope you enjoyed this video and we'll be talking real soon.